Hey everybody, welcome to my stream. It's my first stream I've ever done, so guys. So please comment and subscribe, and tell other people about my what you call it my channel. I would really appreciate it, guys. So okay. Right, I'm gonna be doing NFL reaction. NFL scores. I have not seen it.
There's nothing more powerful than you making your thing happen. Really going for it.
Time now for some Mayotivations presented by Hellmann's, America's #1 mayonnaise. I can never read that with a straight face. But nonetheless, we got a doubleheader for you coming up on Monday Night Football. We're going to talk about the first matchup first. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens taking on Baker Mayfield and the Bucs at 8:15. The fifth game in NFL history between teams both entering with three or more straight 30-point games.
So
in fact, these two rank 1 and 2 in terms of points scored over the last 3 weeks. So hammer the over and hang out with us as we get you ready with the Push in the Pile crew. As promised, Mike Renner and Kyle Long joining us, our Push in the Pile crew. I like saying that, Push in the Pile. What a good podcast name, by the way.
Push in the pile.
Push in the Pile. Let's
glad you guys like it as well.
I know. Yeah. Who's over here saying it? Fellas, it seems like quite a minute since we saw the Ravens start the season 0-2 at the beginning of the year. Everyone was kind of panicking. Now we've seen them win, 4 straight at this point, but they're taking on a Tampa Bay Bucs team. Mike, I'm looking at you, so I'll go to you first here. What do you expect in this matchup out of the Ravens and the Bucs?
I expect points. Both these teams are red hot, and I expect two quarterbacks to be playing at the top of their games. You look at Lamar Jackson right now, playing at an MVP level, his highest yards per attempt through 6 games to start his career. He's doing it without taking any sacks. He has the fewest sacks of any starting quarterback in the NFL. So that leaky offensive line that we saw to start the season, they have been much improved, and Lamar Jackson is the beneficiary. This Ravens offense right now is scary. On the flip side of the ball, the Bucs are too. Baker Mayfield, even right now, even with everyone else having played, he still leads the NFL in touchdown passes. So I expect points.
Yeah, both these guys are so confident. Both the quarterbacks give their team that confidence to say, we can go out there and score at will. And what you said about Lamar is really important. His ability to stand in there under duress. Yes, at the beginning of the year, it wasn't just leaky. It was a liability, that offensive line. They made some changes, retooled. Now this offense is rolling both sides, running the football and throwing the football. And for the Bucs as well, they went out there and dominated a couple times in the last few weeks, putting points up. It's fun to watch both these groups. It's going to be fireworks tonight.
Yeah, and Mike, to your point, Lamar Jackson certainly playing like a 2-time MVP that he is. Kyle, you mentioned he gives that team the confidence to go out there, and they really want to be behind Lamar Jackson. Are you expecting more MVP Lamar-like things against this Bucs defense that, despite injuries, always finds a way to be in it?
It does not matter who Lamar Jackson's playing against. And we've seen him win 2 MVPs. The scary thing is the guy's getting better throughout his career. He's able to do things. He's transforming into a guy that can be looked at as a pocket passer now, under duress, being able to take shots down the football field like Mike was talking about. Lamar gives you a chance to win in so many different ways.
I'm not sure it's him that's playing at another level. It's the fact that the
Honestly,
talent
I
around him
think,
has gone to another
Lamar's,
level. And the guy we haven't mentioned, Derrick Henry,
got
heading
good,
into this week, he leads the NFL in rushing yards,
got
rushing
good, pretty good
touchdowns,
offense,
yards per
but I
attempt on the
think, like,
ground.
the
Like, they
Buccaneers
can beat you
defense is gonna
any which way, which is what
play-
makes this Ravens team so
play
scary.
really good
Real
and
quick,
also-
how much has Derrick Henry made Lamar Jackson a better player this year, Mike?
I think Derrick Henry's the guy that.
I mean, it's hard to really quantify, I'll say, but he has made this offense infinitely better. Right? I mean, just because you have to worry about him. You look at every end of the game situation. You go to the Bengals game. You go to last week. It's Derrick Henry rumbling down the field, closing out these games. It's not Lamar Jackson doing it with his arm. So it makes his Ravens offense better, and that just makes Lamar Jackson's life easier. And every quarterback wants that.
All right, let's go to the other side of this matchup here and talk about Baker Mayfield and just the way the Bucs have been playing right now. They had the second most points in franchise history last week in that 50-burger over the Saints. They also had a lot of yards in that game too. When you look at the Bucs as a team, Kyle, how do you feel about them right now? Where are we at in the fandom with what this team has been able to do this season?
I feel like obviously you have the quarterback that can win you football games, but this team has stepped up and played really well. They've got two guys at the receiver position who are good, but now with the emergence of these two running backs for this football team, you can win in any number of ways. And they kind of remind me of the Ravens in that regard, where we can pass it and win. We can also run it and win now. So for a team led by Baker Mayfield, it's a lot of fun to watch this group become a running and passing football team.
I got to give a tip of the cap to Liam Cohen, offense coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His first season there, inherits, a team that did well last year, and he's improved upon it with a lot of the same talent. And I think he's adjusted to the strengths of this unit. You see it in the running game. They're getting those guards and those offensive linemen out in the move. One of the most athletic offensive lines in the NFL. Now against this Ravens defense, it may be tougher sledding than against the Saints, but I think the adjustments they've made have been very impressive.
We were, of course, talking about Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. We know that duo very well, but we can't talk about the triple threats that they have in the backfield without talking about the Bucs, because we have Sean Tucker, Rashad White, and Bucky Irving, Kyle, that are certainly going to make some noise as well.
Yeah, it's all different styles. I mean, every single one of the guys that you just named, you get them the football and they can do different things. Me and Mike were talking about the strengths of these running backs last week and what it does to kind of change the tempo, change the pace of the offense. And you're looking at a gap scheme here on the screen there, the ability to get those guards, that athletic offensive line to the second level and get on people and let these guys make plays, explosive runs. That's what breaks the back of defense. And you see some of these pulls here. It's great to see from the Bucs. They've been disjointed in the run in years past. This looks like a team that can run the football with confidence.
Yeah, I call him Bucky Swervin because he can get in and out of his cuts so efficiently.
That's a top-tier nickname, Mike.
And his vision is elite. And I think that's the biggest difference between how we saw this offense running when Rashad White was the feature back to now when Bucky is. He just has that ability to keep them on schedule consistently that this Bucs offense desperately needs. So I think he is their feature back now.
You normally have the two-headed monster, the 1-2 punch. Now we're talking about a triple header there. Let's talk about the numbers when it comes to the gambling side of this. The Ravens are favored at 3.5. I thought this was interesting. The Ravens are 9-0 straight up over their last 10 games as a favorite. Baker Mayfield is 0-6 in his last primetime start. So take that information with what you will. Kyle, I'll come to you first. Who wins this game?
I think it's got to be the Baltimore Ravens. They have just been getting better every single week. I love Lamar Jackson. He gives you a chance to win. And in prime time, it's hard to pick against Lamar Jackson. I think he's just a superhero out there.
I'm going to go with the Bucs. I think this offense right now is humming. You saw the 50-burger last week. And I think this Ravens secondary is susceptible.
That's where it comes
Second
down.
most passing yards per game allowed this season. I think they do it through the air.
Yeah, we're talking about the way this Buccaneers team runs the football and passes the football. Well, the Ravens, they stop the run as good as anybody in the NFL, and they are about as porous as anybody in the NFL as it comes to pass defense. So that'll be the story of the game.
I love with them just reacting off of one another, too. Like,
I can't.
All day, every day, man.
Yeah, it's like you guys host a podcast together or
Thank
something.
you
It's
for
crazy.
taking us.
I've just been seeing Baker Mayfield staring at me behind you, Kyle, this entire segment. So I've just been
I
like,
thought he was looking at me.
he probably is. You're right. You're
like
right.
staring into the back of your head. All right, fellas, don't go anywhere. We're going to do this all over again with our second doubleheader. But speaking of pushing the file, there it is. Our newest podcast on CBS Sports features the fellas you see on your screen. They're on all the time talking all things football. Scan that QR code to listen in wherever you get your pods.
Thank you. Get some gameplay. Chargers on the
Mobile VPA editor. Make
NFL after that better one.
Let's see what we got.
Preview. Three plays. Well, this is a lot better.
I am not rich as hell. I work hard. I scrape to get by. Donald Trump wants to give tax breaks to billionaires, but Kamala Harris has plans to cut taxes for working people like me. I voted for Donald Trump before, but this time I'm voting for Kamala.
Arizona Cardinals back at home as the second act of a Monday Night Football doubleheader, taking on another West Coaster who coast in a game back over 500.
And a 7-point win for Harbaugh and the Chargers.
These are two teams that have lacked consistency so far. The Chargers, though, at least have an identity. For good or bad, they play good defense, run the ball, and let the passing attack fill in whatever gaps are left. But it's the run game on offense that Arizona's defense should focus on. J.K. Dobbins scored last week, 96 yards.
A gain of 21.
Dobbins has cracked 95 yards 3 times. Chargers have won all 3. Under that mark 2 times, both LA losses. Arizona's defense giving up 4.7 a run to running backs in 2024. But hey, they held Josh Jacobs to 3.4 a carry. Need a showing like that this week.
Roy Lopez able to pin Jacobs for a loss.
Holding Jacobs in check didn't translate to great pass defense, though. Justin Herbert gets a Cardinals group that didn't sack Jordan Love once. They gave up 4 TDs to him, a rating near 120, a 101.2 rate allowed to quarterbacks for the year.
Wide open Watson for a Packer touchdown.
Herbert comes in off his top passing outing of 2024, and he took 3 sacks while doing it. But 237 yards, that's the first time he's cracked 200. 7 yards per attempt, that's the first time he's hit 7. A touchdown, a plus 90 rating. Tame numbers, but it's system related, not Herbert related.
It's the rookie, Kamani Vidal, his first NFL touch.
Rookie wide receiver Ladd McConkey seems to be his go-to these days. He led the team in targets versus Denver, 40-plus yards.
Completes it, McConkey, first down.
No Chargers pass catcher had even 50 yards, though, 6 guys with 20-plus. Similar approach used by his counterpart, Kyler Murray, using 5 guys for 20-plus yards last week. 214 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, a rating near 100 for Kyler versus Green Bay.
Terrific throw and catch, and the Cardinals are on the board.
Tight end Trey McBride was his go-to. 8 targets, 8 catches, 96 yards.
They left McBride open right down the seam.
But he lost Marvin Harrison Jr., concussion. Hurt them and would hurt them some more, being they're up against a Chargers secondary holding quarterbacks to a sub-90 rating. Only 5 touchdowns allowed through the air and under 7 yards per attempt allowed.
Bolden with the INT.
Murray will be chased around by Khalil Mack and company. They sacked Nix twice last week. Murray, though, not dropped once by Green Bay on 32 pass attempts.
Murray in some trouble again. Murray will throw. McBride coming to help him out.
Chargers defense gave up a lot of rush yards to Nix. 61, 10.2 a scamper.
And he's got a lot of room to run. Knicks, and they're in field goal range.
That's a problem when you face Murray, but he only managed 2 a carry last week, just 14 yards on the ground. Green Bay didn't blitz him much. Preferred to try and contain him, and running back James Conner enters cold, 24 yards, 3.4 a run last week. 11-4 in favor of the Chargers. That's where the series stands. First time they ever met, 1971, St. Louis versus San Diego. Chargers picked off Jim Hart 3 times, take it 20-17 on a 4th quarter game-winning field goal.
A $300 travel credit and a reminder to take your PTO. Add more to every getaway with Chase Sapphire Reserve.
In our wake, a cold peace shall prevail. But those who don't embrace
field. Eckler in the backfield.
A bus.
The Cowboys, he posted a combined Saints exec fall in love with Trubisky was that he saw a lot of Drew Brees in him and looked past the glaring red flags. At UNC, Trubisky's supreme athletic ability overshadowed his inconsistency. So there were always questions of if he could master the mental part of the game. And there were also doubts about his leadership ability. Those suspicions were confirmed almost as soon as Trubisky entered the NFL. The Bears coaches saw that he wasn't ready as a passer, so he started his rookie season on the bench. It wasn't until week 5 that they decided to make him the starter, replacing Mike Glennon. And in 12 games, Trubisky threw as many interceptions as touchdowns, while averaging just 6.6 yards per attempt. Chicago finished the year 5-11, and head coach John Fox was fired. The funny part is that the Bears hired Matt Nagy from the Chiefs, who was part of the regime that drafted Mahomes 10th overall. And Trubisky did improve under Nagy, but he never became a guy who could win games with his arm. He never toughened up either. He couldn't keep his emotions in check on the field and let outside criticism affect him a lot. During a rough stretch in 2019, the team turned off the TVs in Hallis Hall to improve the vibes. Chicago eventually declined Trubisky's fifth-year option, and his Bears run ended with a loss to the Saints in the 2020 wildcard round. But at least Trubisky lasted 4 seasons in Chicago, because the next player on this list barely got 1 season with the team that drafted him. Trent Richardson was a stud at Alabama. In 2011, he gained more than 2,000 yards from scrimmage and scored 24 total TDs as the Tide won the Natty. But was he good enough to go 3rd overall to Cleveland, who traded 4 picks to the Vikings to move up 1 spot? In hindsight, obviously not. But even at the time he got drafted, there were signs that picking him that high was a risk. He got his knee scoped 2 months before the draft and needed another scope during training camp. Then, during the season, he cracked his ribs. To Richardson's credit, he played through the pain and finished his rookie year with 950 yards and 11 touchdowns. But his decline was already underway. Cleveland changed coaches in the offseason, from Pat Shurmur to Rob Chudzinski, and the new regime didn't like what they saw from Richardson. So 2 weeks into the 2013 season, the Browns made a shocking move. They traded Richardson to the Colts for a first-round pick in the 2014 draft, and that deal turned out to be bad for both sides. Richardson kept regressing, and then he got suspended from the 2014 AFC title game after missing a walkthrough without telling the team. Just a few weeks later, the Colts released him. He signed with the Raiders, but after more health issues, was cut from camp in 2015. In 2016, the Ravens gave him another shot, but then another knee issue surfaced and Baltimore cut him in camp. His final years of ball were spent trying to prove he should be in the NFL, spending time in the CFL, the AAF, and even a league in Mexico, but no team brought him back. As for the Browns' end of the trade, somehow the outcome was worse.
Check out these deals of the week at Walgreens. Enjoy free 1-hour delivery when you spend $35.
Oh, shit. Oh, no.
No wonder it's so heavy. It's chrome. Such a resource hog. Get out of here. Get. Oh. Whoa. Oh. Topper GX. It's the best fish in the lake.
Well, cover me in mustard and call me a weenie. Looks like Charles got the catch of the day. And with our sponsor, Opera GX, you can too. If you want to support Moist Esports, you can download Opera completely for free from the panel below the stream. Well, what you waiting for? Go on now. I think y'all got some fish to catch.
because they used the first-round pick the Colts gave them to trade up and draft Johnny Manziel. Now, going into the 2014 draft, the Browns were coming off 6 straight losing seasons. They recently hired another new coach in Mike Pettin, and they were desperate for some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. So, with an extra first-round pick from the Trent Richardson trade, why not take a chance on a big-name Heisman Trophy-winning quarterback, right? Wrong, because Johnny Football had issues. Manziel lit up college football with his wild improvisation ability and crazy throws at Texas A&M. And in 2012, he became the first freshman to win the Heisman Trophy. But from that moment on, his life off the field was a mess. He became a mega star, constantly seen partying with celebrities, courtside at NBA games, and spending copious amounts of money before NIL was a thing. His money fingers gesture hit differently after that. But Manziel left College Station after the 2013 season so he could go to the NFL and make money legally. So, where do you send a larger-than-life athlete who loves partying and fame? Cleveland, as the Browns moved up 4 spots to take him 22nd overall. Manziel might have even become decent with some effort, but he hated the city and hated the grind that came with being an NFL quarterback. He admitted in a 2023 Netflix documentary that he watched 0 film with the Browns.
Their GM's calling me going, he doesn't watch tape. I'm like, well, he's got to watch some tape. It's like, ED, his iPad hours is 0.
With addiction. In 2018, he attempted a comeback in the CFL, but football still wasn't a priority. His NFL career consisted of 14 games. He threw as many interceptions as touchdowns while completing just 57% of his passes and going 2-6 as a starter. But the Browns had 2 first-rounders in 2014 because of the Richardson trade. So what did they do with the other pick? Well, they'd have been better off giving it away because they took another bust, Justin Gilbert. He went 8th overall. 14 picks before Johnny Manziel. For context, Odell Beckham Jr. went 12th overall, Aaron Donald went 13th, and Zach Martin went 16th. But like Manziel, Gilbert had a poor work ethic. His own teammates called him out publicly for being immature, and in 2015, he was even suspended for a game for being late to a team meeting. He caused problems off the field too. In 2015, he drove his car into a ditch in a road rage incident. And in 2016, the Browns gave up on him after 2 seasons. Just like they did with Manziel, they traded Gilbert to the arch-rival Steelers. Pittsburgh cut him after 1 season. And then the NFL suspended him for a year for violating the substance abuse policy. Gilbert never returned to the league after that. And never has a team royally botched the first round of a draft as bad as the Browns did in 2014. But sometimes a team drafts the right player and they just run into bad luck, like Robert Griffin III. RG3's rookie season was truly something special. In the 2012 draft, Washington traded 4 picks to move up from 6th to 2nd. And it wasn't long before the 2011 Heisman Trophy winner was running the offense in the nation's capital. He and the Shanahans changed the quarterback position in the NFL with their read option attack. As a first-year starter, Griffin threw for 3,200 yards and ran for 815. He also beat out Andrew Luck, the first pick of the 2012 draft, for AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. But this is where the bad luck comes in. In Week 14, Griffin suffered a knee injury against the Ravens. And if that was all that had happened, he may not have been on this list. But Griffin returned to the game for a few snaps before being removed. Afterward, there was controversy over whether he was actually cleared to go back in. Washington's team doctor, legendary orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews, said Griffin didn't let him examine his knee on the sideline right away. Then, after missing the next game, Griffin was back for Week 16. Under his leadership, Washington made the playoffs. But then came the biggest mistake of RG3's career. During Washington's wild card game against Seattle, he tried to field a bad snap late in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, his leg bent the wrong way as he chased after the ball, and he tore both his ACL and LCL. Washington head coach Mike Shanahan took a ton of heat for letting RG3 play on a bad knee. But Griffin accepted some responsibility too, saying he accepted the risk of playing injured. The relationship between the two was never the same. Griffin struggled in his second year before getting hurt more and then was replaced by Kirk Cousins. He lasted 4 seasons in D.C. before signing with the Browns in 2016. Just a year later, he was cut by Cleveland, and he finished his career with the Ravens, serving as a backup and mentor to Lamar Jackson. And speaking of players whose careers were derailed by injuries, we present to you Kevin White, who flashed bust potential early, as in right after he was drafted 7th overall by the Bears in 2015. During OTAs his rookie year, he suffered a season-ending stress fracture in his leg. In 2016, he was done after 4 games because of a high ankle sprain and fractured fibula. Then, in 2017, he didn't even get past week 1 after breaking his scapula going over the middle. 3 season-ending injuries in as many seasons. White's career was toast. In his one healthy season, 2018, the Bears sealed the deal. They brought in Taylor Gabriel and benched White. White finished that year with 4 catches for 92 yards. He actually played 3 more seasons, jumping from Arizona to San Francisco to New Orleans. But he kept missing time with injuries. Finally, in 2022, the Saints cut him during camp with an injury settlement. I mean, it's only right that he went out like that. His career numbers totaled 30 games, 28 receptions, 397 yards, and 0 touchdowns.
A question we get all the time is, how do you do culinary school online? And the way we do it is by focusing on technique. Taste and flavor is very subjective.
But it didn't take injuries to ruin the career of Josh Rosen. He did that all by himself. Josh was never really all in on football, which was a fear many teams had about him going into the draft. He had lots of interests outside the game, including science and economics. And he definitely got the economics of football right, because Rosen supplied just enough good play at UCLA to demand NFL teams make him a first-round pick. And in 2018, the Cardinals did just that, selecting Rosen 10th overall. He was the 4th QB taken in the draft, behind Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Josh Allen. And yes, Rosen was the worst of the 4. He struggled with accuracy, reads, and pocket presence. You know, all the stuff that makes quarterbacks good, finishing his rookie season with 11 touchdowns and 14 picks. The Cards finished the year 3-13. So that offseason, they changed coaches. And unfortunately for Rosen, the new guy, Cliff Kingsbury, wanted his own QB. So with the first pick of the 2019 draft, Arizona selected Kyler Murray and outwent Rosen to the Dolphins in a day 2 trade. In 2019, Rosen made 3 starts for Miami after Ryan Fitzpatrick was benched. He went 0-3, threw 3 interceptions, and was sacked 12 times. And that was it for him. In 2020, Miami cut Rosen a few months after drafting Tua Tagovailoa. Josh would spend 1 more year as a backup for Matt Ryan in Atlanta before being out of the league. But we can't talk about busts from the 2018 draft without also mentioning Sam Darnold. When Darnold entered the league, he just wasn't ready for the NFL. He had played just 2 seasons at USC and was only 20 years old. Still, the Jets traded 3 second-rounders to move up 3 spots and select Sam 3rd overall. In week 1 of his rookie year, Darnold was named the Jets starter. His debut was on a Monday night against the Lions in Detroit. And how did Darnold announce his arrival? He threw a pick 6 on his first play from scrimmage. He ended up playing decently in a Jets blowout win, but Jets Nation had been introduced to the Sam Darnold experience. So where did it go wrong for him? Well, maybe it was when he got mono in his second season.
They told me I had mono, and I immediately started laughing, thought they were joking.
And ESPN posted an update that turned into a legendary meme. There was no coming back from that. Or maybe it was a certain Monday night game against the Patriots. Darnold was caught on a hot mic saying he was seeing ghosts.
Seeing ghosts.
Says Bill Belichick blitzed him into oblivion. No coming back from that either. A year later, the Jets were done with the inconsistent play Darnold was giving them. He was 13-25 as a starter and threw 39 interceptions. So, in the 2020 offseason, New York traded him to a desperate Panthers team for picks. Darnold's struggles continued in Carolina, but he did beat Gang Green in a revenge game. In 23, he signed with the Niners to back up Brock Purdy. And this year, he joined the Vikings, where he'll get another shot as a starter. But while Darnold has managed to carve out a decent career for himself as a journeyman, Justin Blackmon lasted just 2 years before making a shocking exit from the NFL. Blackmon balled out at Oklahoma State. His last 2 years with the Cowboys, he posted a combined 233 receptions for 3,304 yards and 38 touchdowns. However, off the field, Blackmon was fighting demons. His drinking and drug use were spiraling out of control, and the DUI arrest his sophomore year brought it out into the open. But Justin was allowed to keep playing. The charges were later reduced, and he didn't have any more legal issues in college. So his draft stock didn't take a hit. And when the 2012 NFL draft rolled around, Blackmon was rated as the top wideout prospect. After the Jaguars moved up to take him 5th overall, he was expected to be an instant star. But then his past issues emerged again. In June 2012, he was arrested again for a DUI. And before he even played a game, Blackmon was in the NFL's substance abuse program. Despite that, he had a decent rookie season with 64 catches for 865 yards and 5 touchdowns. But even his success couldn't help him shake his addiction. Blackmon violated the drug policy again, and in 2013, he was suspended for the first 4 games of the season. Another violation during the season got him suspended indefinitely.
This is a kid that's had so many chances that really hasn't been able to turn it around. And once in a while, guys, you run out of chances.
And here's where the story takes the weirdest turn. Blackmon never applied for reinstatement. He ghosted everyone. After another DUI arrest, it became clear that he disappeared back to Oklahoma. But still, no one knows the full story. However, it didn't take much legwork to figure out that the next player on this list was going to struggle to live up to his draft position. In 2019, the Raiders reached for Clelin Ferrell when they took him 4th overall. He was an excellent pass rusher at Clemson, but he wasn't a top 5 prospect. The John Gruden, Mike Mayock-led Raiders thought he was, and then Ferrell showed right away that he wasn't. He had 4.5 sacks in 15 games as a rookie. Then 2 sacks in 2020, 1.5 sacks in 2021, and 2 sacks in 2022. That's 10 total sacks in 4 seasons. By the time Ferrell left the Raiders as a free agent in 2023, Gruden and Mayock were long gone. So why didn't Ferrell work out for the Raiders? Part of it was that he looked better in college than he actually was. He played in a loaded Clemson defense. Guys like Dexter Lawrence and Christian Wilkins played with him on the D-line. Wilkins went to the Dolphins 9 picks after the Raiders took Ferrell. And so, Ferrell is a warning to teams that want to reach for talent. But sometimes teams just fall in love with a player, especially if that player has elite speed. John Ross had that in spades. In 2017, Ross became a draft legend with his then combine record 4.22 40-yard dash time. The Washington wideout broke Chris Johnson's 2008 record by 2/100ths of a second and skyrocketed up the draft boards. The Bengals ended up taking Ross with the 9th overall pick. They already had A.J. Green and Brandon LaFell, but Ross's speed would add an entirely new element to their offense. However, Ross barely saw the field as a rookie. A preseason knee injury and an in-season shoulder injury kept him on the sideline. He took just 17 offensive snaps and caught no passes in 3 games. After a modest 2018 season, he was showing out at the start of the 2019 season. He had a big week 1 and was contributing in every game. Then came the injury that wrecked his career and almost ended his life. In week 4, Ross took a hit from Steelers corner Joe Hayden. The tackle caused a shoulder sprain, which might not sound too bad at first. However, after a couple tests, a doctor told Ross that a joint in his chest came very close to severing an artery. Ross might have missed 8 weeks, but he avoided a tragedy. Unfortunately for Ross, the injuries never stopped, and he finished his career with just 62 catches for 957 yards and 11 touchdowns. If you enjoyed this video, stick with Blitz, subscribe, and never miss another.
The future of your business is here. With Wix, you get advanced AI capabilities for more customization, more time, and more growth. Speed up your website copy with an AI text generator that delivers a consistent brand voice to every corner of your site. Unlimited unique visuals enhance every piece of content you create. Instantly transform any idea into an image right from the comfort of your platform. And win back hours of hard work with AI-powered emails designed to perform. More conversions, less hassle. Smart benchmarks show you exactly where you stand in the market. See what's working and what needs work so you can quickly spot your next opportunity and take your business where you want to go. Oh, and we're just getting started. Go to Wix.com and make it happen.
Paper bags on heads and sections of empty seats can only mean one thing: an NFL team is terrible. It happens every year, but only a select group of teams can be in the running for the worst NFL team of all time. Owners calling plays instead of coaches, firing a team president in September, players retiring after winless seasons. These are the 5 NFL teams that simply stand out above, or should we say, below the rest. Like the Cleveland Browns, who were already in the cellar of the NFL, but their disastrous 2016 campaign was the start of something even worse. Despite the franchise entering its 75th season in the NFL, they are one of only 4 teams to never appear in a Super Bowl. But in the fall of 2016, Cleveland hit new depths. Under first-year head coach Hugh Jackson, the Browns kinda sucked immediately, losing a franchise record 15 games. So, how does a team get to 1-15? It starts at the top. On January 3rd of 2016, the Browns owner Jimmy Haslam fired previous general manager Ray Farmer and didn't hire a replacement. Instead, they gave those duties to executive VP Sashi Brown without actually naming him as the GM. Brown had never been a GM before being given the role, and Cleveland was already coming off a terrible 3-13 season in 2015. Before the 2016 season, Jackson had just 1 year of head coaching experience, and placing their bets on quarterback Robert Griffin III only stacked the odds against them. So when Week 1 came around, the Browns opened with a below-average Philadelphia Eagles team. Despite facing a team that gave up 20.7 points per game that season, the Browns could only muster 288 total yards on offense and scored just 1 touchdown. In the 29-10 Week 1 loss, 50% of Robert Griffin III's pass attempts fell incomplete. Considering that in 2015, RG3 had been regulated to third-string quarterback and scout team safety in his final year with Washington, it's not a surprise that he struggled. Still, after multiple critical injuries had sidetracked his career, the Browns were willing to give him a $7.5 million contract, despite the obvious red flags. Now, if ignoring red flags was how teams won Super Bowls, the Browns would look like the New England Patriots. But as the warning signs predicted, RG3 immediately injured his shoulder and headed to the injured reserve. A consistent presence at QB is critical for teams to succeed, and Cleveland was without their number 1 guy after 1 week. So what followed was another 13 weeks of agony in Cleveland. The Browns failed to win a game all the way until December, losing by an average of 13.4 points per game in their first 14 contests. Cleveland was simply terrible for the majority of the season, but the times they did keep the games close was thanks to players like running back Isaiah Crowell and wide receiver Terrell Pryor. Sweet release from the threat of a winless season came in Week 16, when a bad San Diego Chargers team visited the Browns in a game with 0 playoff implications. On the back of 2 rushing TDs from Crowell, the Browns held on to a 2017 win. That win over San Diego prevented the worst-case scenario, but NFL fans know that it only delayed the inevitable until the 2017 season. But we'll get back to that later, because things got so bad for the Colts that the team owner started calling plays, and there is no question that the franchise hit its greatest low in the early 1980s. After a mediocre 7-9 season in 1980, the Colts were looking to improve with a second-year head coach Mike McCormick. And after stealing a 29-28 season-opening road win against the New England Patriots, they were seemingly on the right track, except that quickly proved not to be the case. Baltimore would go on to lose 14 consecutive games on their way to a 2-14 record. The spectacularly terrible way Baltimore made history is still remembered, but few names from the Colts squad have stood the test of time. Let's run down the list of embarrassing accolades. Baltimore set records for the most points allowed, giving up 533 total points, or 33 points per game. The 1981 Colts had the worst point differential in a 16-game season, with minus 274, and gave up the most touchdowns allowed in the season, with opponents scoring 68 times. And they forced the fewest punt returns in a season, with just 12. Think about that last stat. The Colts forced just 12 punts. That means there were several games in which Baltimore did not force the opposing offense off the field or put them in a position to punt. And due to a serious amount of disrespect for the Baltimore defense, opponents would also take their chances converting fourth downs instead of handing the ball over. But on November 15th, 1981, the Colts' ineptitude hit a different level during a game against the Philadelphia Eagles, because longtime owner of the Colts franchise, Bob Irsay, went into the coach's booth, pulled QB Burt Jones for Greg Landry, and then called plays. If Baltimore wasn't the joke of the 81 season before that point, the team owner pulling control from his staff gave the franchise a clown nose. It was such a bizarre and unprofessional decision that Irsay did immediate damage control after the 38-13 loss to Philadelphia. But his comments just came off as an owner who still didn't know what he was doing. I wish that you would print it that I did not call the shots during the entire second half. I did it just for a minute or two. Then, after the touchdown, I shut up. I was the one who put Landry and Jones in and out. And yes, it was my play for the touchdown. And years later, Burt Jones revealed his side of the story in a Sports Illustrated interview. Irsay couldn't have told you how many players were on the field, never mind what plays we had. All he was trying to do was embarrass the coaches and the players. When he told me to run, I threw. When he told me to throw left, I ran right. Surprisingly, the Colts did win another game after the debacle against the Eagles, and Baltimore actually beat New England for the second time that season, sandwiching a 14-game losing streak with wins against the Patriots. But any good vibes that the Colts salvaged with their second win was quickly forgotten in the next season. Baltimore went winless in 1982, going 0-8-1 due to several games being foregone due to a player strike. Over the 81 and 82 seasons, the Colts' combined record was 2-22-1. And if the 1981 Colts were a clown show, the 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers were a full-on circus. NFL fans are excited about the return of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' retro creamsicle uniforms this season, and for good reason. They look awesome. But when the franchise first debuted in 1976, the fans weren't talking about their eye-catching jerseys. They were screaming about how the team was simply not pro football ready.
Gentlemen, I would hope to hell we could play more aggressive football. I have never seen a team tackle this poorly in football in my whole life.
See, the Bucs called on two legends of college football to lead their team. And on paper, a team led by four-time national championship winning coach John McKay and legendary Florida QB Steve Spurrier should succeed.
There's John McKay. I think he said he was going to go out and buy an O.J. Simpson poster so he could remember what it was like when he was a good coach.
But the reality is that injuries and dysfunction kneecapped Tampa Bay.
We ended up with 21 guys on injured reserve, 18 knee surgeries. Unprecedented.
To the point that winning games was almost impossible. In the team's opening weeks, that became obvious, because the Buccaneers did not score a touchdown in either of the team's first two NFL games, getting outscored 43-0 in the process. Then, in week 3, they finally did reach the end zone, but still lost to the Buffalo Bills in a 14-9 contest. Tampa would end up scoring an abysmal 8.9 points per game, getting shut out 5 separate times during their season. On just 3 occasions, the Buccaneers kept their losing margin to just 1 score, and they lost by an average of 20.5 points per game. But even when your team sucks, it's important to laugh, right? That's why throughout the Bucs' 0-14 season, McKay consistently dropped press conference gold as the team suffered setback after setback. One quip came when the Buccaneers were still looking for their first win late in the 76 season.
We've now proven we can't play on the road or in front of our own crowd. We would like to have a neutral site.
Or when he explained his approach to players returning to Tampa Bay after the 76 season. Stop by my office tomorrow and pick up some fake noses and mustaches so no one recognizes your sorry asses. But McKay did do some fortune telling at the end of the season. We'll be back. Maybe not this century, but we'll be back. Of course, the Buccaneers did come back to play the next season, but it wasn't much better. In 77, the Bucs went 2-12, with both wins coming at the end of the season, meaning they lost an NFL record 26 consecutive games. In 1981, they eventually won a playoff game under McKay. But near the start of the new century, Tampa Bay finally hoisted the Lombardi Trophy after winning Super Bowl 37 in 2003.
Buccaneers win! Buccaneers win in San Diego! It took 27 years to get here. It took us 60 minutes to bring home the trophy.
Time can make you change your mind.
We're partnering with eBay Motors to take the Boss Racing Time Attack car to the next level.
The 1976 Buccaneers could be further up this list, but the team's inaugural season and the plethora of injuries the team suffered saves them from further embarrassment. You see, only 5 roster members played all 14 games, which would be unheard of in the modern NFL. Despite the context, one thing was clear. Tampa Bay Buccaneers team was horrendous, but they had several excuses as a brand new NFL franchise. The same can't be said for the 2017 Cleveland Browns, because after one of the most embarrassing seasons in franchise history, the Cleveland Browns outdid themselves by imploding even further. They basically ended a rookie QB's career before it even began, on their way to a winless season.
We want a team that's going to win. We're sick of losing every year after year.
As we said with the 2016 Browns, they avoided an 0-16 season, but seemingly delayed the inevitable. Welcome to the 2017 Browns. Cleveland stuck with head coach Hugh Jackson as well as GM Sashi Brown. In 2016, it translated to a 1-15 season. So clearly in 2017, it was a recipe for success.
No, I'm not going 1-15. No, I'll be swimming in the lake over there somewhere. So that's not happening.
Cleveland became the second team ever to go 0-16 and did it in painful fashion. Whereas teams like the 76 Buccaneers had few chances to actually win, the Browns lost 6 games by 6 points or less, including a 27-21 overtime loss to the Green Bay Packers in Week 14. That's what separates them from the worst team on our list, but it only added to the brutal season Browns fans had to endure.
Do something now. I want to win now. I'm sick of losing, okay? I'm too old for this.
And what's crazier is that Cleveland went undefeated in the preseason, but that didn't matter once the regular season rolled around. Cleveland's defense was actually solid, ranking 10th in yards allowed per game. Where the team was truly abysmal was on offense, spearheaded by the disappointing play of rookie quarterback Deshaun Kaiser. The Browns gave up on the Robert Griffin III project after 1 year, electing to draft Kaiser in the second round of the 2017 NFL Draft.
The Cleveland Browns select Deshaun Kaiser.
The former Notre Dame star won the starting job over Cody Kessler and Kevin Hogan before the season, but his 15 games as a starter is one of the worst stretches in NFL history. In 2017, Kaiser only completed 53.6% of his passes, throwing for 2,894 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, and 22 interceptions. It's a major red flag to throw that many picks, but averaging less than 200 passing yards per game shows exactly how bad Kaiser was. The Browns QB only surpassed 300-plus passing yards in a game once, and only threw more touchdowns than interceptions twice. Kaiser tried to contribute on the ground with 419 rushing yards and 5 TDs, but you actually have to complete passes to be an NFL QB. And in a 16-game season, teams that are close to winning but can't get the job done consistently have a coaching issue. In retrospect, hiring Jackson was a bad decision, but his reputation was fine after his first head coaching job with the Raiders. It was his fateful 2.5 years in Cleveland that ended his chances of ever being an NFL head coach again. And yes, it was 2.5 seasons. Despite going winless in 2017, the Browns brought Jackson back for the 2018 campaign before firing after a 2-5 start.
That's a hard pill to swallow, when you've given it your all and you work extremely hard.
Hey, that's one more win than he managed over his first 2 years in Cleveland. But if decades of playoff misfortune and failed potential weren't enough, the Detroit Lions crafted a team in 2008 that was so incredibly bad that they created history they'll never be able to escape. As one of the NFL's oldest franchises, the Lions have suffered quite a bit. The franchise has a single playoff win in the Super Bowl era and have never come even close to playing in football's biggest game. But none of their struggles compare to the 2008 season.
We have a group of Lions that's called the Pride. Well, we're going to have to change that because these Lions have no pride.
Third-year head coach Ron Marinelli hadn't done especially well in his first 2 seasons with Detroit, going 10-22. But nothing could have prepared fans for the 2008 campaign. It starts and ends with the Lions' defense. On 11 separate occasions, Detroit allowed 30-plus points and nearly surpassed the 1981 Colts for the most points allowed in a single season. The Lions only kept one opponent to less than 20 points, which was also the closest they came to a win. Detroit took a rare lead over the Minnesota Vikings in Week 5 and was even up 10-9 with just a minute to go. But Minnesota finally broke through the underwhelming Lions defense to kick a field goal with just seconds on the clock remaining.
Can't shoot.
It's only a shot.
It was clear how demoralizing that loss was for the Lions. For the rest of the 2008 season, Detroit didn't come close to winning a game. Considering that Marinelli was a defensive-minded coach who later went on to be the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, Detroit's issues on defense were all the more glaring. But it takes two to make a thing go wrong. And Detroit's offense did its part to match the defense. The Lions had different quarterbacks start during the season, two of which were John Kitna and Dante Culpepper. Culpepper and Kitna were quarterbacks entering their final years in the league and significantly past their primes. Culpepper was a two-time Pro Bowler with the Vikings in the mid-2000s, while Kitna's gunslinging approach was aging poorly at the end of his career. And then there was Dan Orlovsky. Primarily a practice squad quarterback for his first 3 years with the Lions, he became the backup behind Kitna and eventually got the starting nod after the veteran QB's struggles. Orlovsky's first start was in that 12-10 loss to the Vikings, leading to one of the most infamous plays in NFL history. The former UConn QB unintentionally ran out of the end zone for a safety in the first quarter, giving the Vikings 2 points. And obviously, it was just 2 points that separated the teams at the final whistle. Now working for ESPN, Orlovsky is one of the most recognizable analysts in football, but that play will never be forgotten. Unfortunately for the Lions, the QB can also say he was the best passer Detroit had in 2008, as he was the only QB of the 3 starters to not throw more interceptions than he did touchdowns. The 2017 Browns gave the 2008 Lions a run for their money, but pretty much on record alone. Cleveland was far more competitive, while Detroit never looked like they could contend with the average NFL team. And 15 years later, their legacy as the worst NFL team of all time still stands.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story with a professional website that reflects who you are and what you have to offer. Customize every element of your website to meet your needs and achieve your goals. Create a unique visual experience that enhances your product and amplifies your message. Expand your website with content that pushes your business forward. Share content that matters to your audience. And present it the way you envision it, from the biggest ideas to the smallest details. Your website, your voice, your platform.
While most players become legends for their accomplishments on the field, nothing etches a player into NFL lore quicker than a great nickname. From Beast Mode to Megatron to the Galloping Ghost, every name tells a unique story. Right, Kirk Thuggins?
That's absolutely right.
That's why we're breaking down the best nicknames in NFL history and where they came from. And who better to start with than one of the biggest to ever do it, William the Refrigerator Perry. The 325-pound Chicago Bear legend was far from ordinary. But it was while doing one of the most ordinary of things, his laundry, that everything changed. At Clemson, Perry and a teammate squeezed into their dorm elevator with loads of laundry. Realizing how much space Perry took up, his teammate dropped what he thought would make for a great diss, saying, "Dude, you're as big as a refrigerator." But what started as a diss quickly caught fire and followed Perry all the way to Super Bowl 20, where the Fridge bulldozed into the end zone for a 1-yard touchdown run to help Chicago lift their first and only Lombardi trophy. Countless NFL players have embraced larger-than-life nicknames that capture their imposing presence, like Steelers teammates Big Ben Roethlisberger and Jerome the Bus Bettis. Then you also have Ed Too Tall Jones, who was once told he was too tall to play football because he couldn't fit into a pair of team pants. Then there's 6'5", 239-pound Calvin Johnson. When his teammate Roy Williams took one look at the 2007 first-round draft pick's extraordinary size and strength, he knew he needed a nickname that matched his cool but intimidating look. At the time, the Transformers movie craze was at its peak, and Jones, being a huge fan of the franchise, began comparing Johnson's build and indestructibility to the leader of the Decepticons, known as Megatron.
Is there anyone who'll challenge the might of Megatron?
While the movies came and went, Megatron became a mainstay in Detroit, with off-the-field nice guy Johnson embracing the role of supervillain on Sundays, shredding opposing cornerbacks with robot-like precision. But Calvin wasn't the only dominant Johnson at wideout with a nickname for the ages. In honor of the NFL's celebration of Spanish Heritage Month, Chad Johnson started referring to himself by what he thought was the correct Spanish translation of his jersey number, Ocho Cinco.
He tried to speak a lot of Spanish, and he was always wrong when he tried to put them into a sentence.
Máquina, ven aquí.
Sure, the translation, like a lot of things Chad did, was a little off, but the fans, and more importantly, Chad, loved the Ocho name and the persona that came with it. And in 2008, Chad legally changed his name to Ocho Cinco.
Ocho Cinco from now on. Anybody that writes about whatever I say today, you call me Ocho Cinco. Do not say Chad.
Now, lots of players embrace their nickname, but how many have embraced it enough to walk into the DMV and ask for a changed name for him? Only Ocho.
Let's go.
Another Bengal with a killer nickname is Adam Jones, a next-level return man whose first scouting report came during Pee Wee football, when his grandmother told him that because of the way he avoided tacklers and changed direction on a dime, people should call him Pac-Man, after the always-on-the-move video game character. Shout out to Grandma, as Jones has gone by Pac-Man ever since. Speaking of video games, Seahawks legend Marshawn Lynch ran the ball like a created player with max stats on Madden. Lynch's youth football coach recognized that early on and always called Marshawn a beast on the field. From then on, Beast Mode was born, and it couldn't fit Marshawn's run style any better. When Beast Mode is activated, he's nearly impossible to tackle, with no better example than his spectacular 67-yard touchdown run against the Saints in 2010, which fans still refer to as the Beast Quake. While Lynch was a beast on the field, off the field, he was a little more reserved.
You kind of shy.
Which is the complete opposite of our next player, Deion Sanders, the only player in history to play in both a Super Bowl and a World Series. But the nickname Primetime didn't even come from either of the two sports he's most known for. Deion earned the Primetime name from his friends after scoring 37 points in a high school basketball game. Now today, Sanders is better known as Coach Prime, as his flashy play style has seamlessly translated into a dynamic coaching approach that has made Colorado a household name in college football. And before Prime coached at Colorado, he led Jackson State to back-to-back SWAC championships. But had Primetime been at JSU 50 years earlier, he would have coached the next player on our list, the legendary Walter Payton, a.k.a. Sweetness. Some say the name refers to his smooth and graceful running style on the field, while others say the name came from Payton's good-natured personality. Whichever it was, the nickname was awesome. But he's just one of many unique running back nicknames we've seen over the years. In the 1940s, a Chicago sports writer famously shouted out Elroy Hirsch's unorthodox running style, writing that he moved like a demented duck whose crazy legs appeared to gyrate in 6 different directions at once. While Demented Duck would have been an amazing nickname, Crazy Legs was the name that stuck. The Nigerian-born Chiefs running back Christian Okoye's powerful run game struck so much fear into defenses, teammates dubbed him the Nigerian Nightmare. Then there's Bears running back Red Grange, who is one of the NFL's earliest superstars. The fans started calling him the Galloping Ghost after he scored 4 touchdowns in the first 12 minutes of a game. They said it as if no one could tackle Grange.
Doing. What? You need to look. What the fuck? Fuck! There. I think I might be mistaken. No. Last pass. Viewers. Okay, let's do NFL highlights. Okay. Well, okay.
Protect us. Pre-order the now.
At the top of your screen there for Hurts on third down.
So what do you think about the Eagles?
Extra rush.
I think they're
Hurts is going to
pretty
go
good
down.
teams.
Inside
They're like
the 25 by
not the
Burns.
best, but they're up there with the best teams performing too.
My only thing, when you run the quarterback like that, he's got to get down. You don't want him knocked out of the game.
They need 3 for a first. He's in trouble, and he's going to go down again. Sacked at the 30 by Nolan Smith Jr. Gainwell, the back. Hurts. He's already been sacked twice. He needs room to heave this thing if he can. And he's going down at the 35. Dexter Lawrence had some help. It was Ojolari and Burns. Darian Kennard and Trevor Keegan are both inactive. Those are backup linemen that might normally be available. So Steen is out there. And Barkley turns the corner. And there he goes. Saquon Barkley showing some speed.
We love home internet from T-Mobile. Now Mesh boosts Wi-Fi all over your home.
Introducing Home Internet Plus with Mesh.
Right. Yeah.
Big Mac. Chicken Big Mac. Big Mac. Chicken Big Mac. Big Mac. Chicken Big Mac. The Chicken Big Mac. It's not a Big Mac. Get it while you can.
And that's how you break the code of these defenses. Gainwell is in as Barkley gets a break. And Kenneth Gainwell with a first down. Leaning into Banks, tough run. Ran in the same direction. Barkley has it. In a crowd, they're going to push. And he is in for a touchdown. Saquon Barkley scores as an Eagle against the Giants here in Jersey.
They got him completely stopped up front. Look at big Dexter Lawrence right in the middle, plugging both A-gaps, and they still find a way to push through. Landon Dickerson and the rest of the crew up front. It turned into a rugby scrum, and you know Saquon ain't getting turned down. Not in this building, not today, not in that new Eagles uniform.
Well, if you knew it, and the Eagles knew it, so like the Giants knew it. And snapped. Jones has to get rid of it. And he's going to be sacked.
Your ass.
Fourth sack of the game. Bryce Huff gets this one.
Terrible player.
After a loss of a yard, Hurts dumps it off short to Gainwell, who spins, and he's close to a first down across midfield.
Number 14.
Hurts for A.J. Brown.
Oh.
He's got it. He's in.
And he's headed for a touchdown.
14 for an Eagle touchdown.
14 actually. So
having to throw this thing off his back foot like a corporal chucking grenades out of a foxhole. Are you kidding me? And then he's always going to trust his guy one-on-one, man-to-man. Oh, they were sure that it was going to be a short underneath route. They tried to press him.
And get the ball to Neighbors. That's when this offense is clicked. There he is, bottom of your screen. If Jones has time, he's going in that area, but a long throw and almost intercepted. Running under it was Quinyon Mitchell. Barkley with 10 touches so far in the game, 85 yards. And Hurts is going to go down. That's 4 sacks in the game for the Giants. Lawrence has a couple. That's 9 total sacks if you include both defenses.
They could get inside the 40, almost 35. They'd be feeling pretty good about a kick.
Jones. He can run and take it out of bounds. Nice. He's against the block, and he gets the first down.
That's always good about just
out of bounds with
running out of bounds and all.
seconds.
It's not good pass for interceptions.
Safeties dropped to the 15. Jones, sideline throw.
Oh, my God.
Nice move by Neighbors. Eventually knocked down around the 17-yard line, and a timeout used by the Giants.
I'm not even fan, but this is crazy, man.
So Jones will fire the other way. A flag and a touchdown. Theo Johnson hauls it in. I mean, this is very different team, but Cincinnati last week when the Giants were going for it on 4th down from the opening kick, it seemed. And Joseph, he better make this one with all that blue back there he does. Keeping the Giants out of the end zone. And Hurts steady at the control for the Eagles. To the slot there. Jones will throw and incomplete. It would have been enough for the first down, but Robinson now second. Crafty move by the Eagle front office as Hurts on target. A.J. Brown on cue.
Okay. Oh. Later tonight. Let's say little stream.
Oh, man. Straight ahead. Big hole for Barkley. There he goes. Inside the 15-yard line of the Giants with a stare from Saquon Barkley. Hurts the push.
There it is.
And touchdown, Eagles. Jalen Hurts with the shove. His third touchdown run this year.
But watch the push. This is the all-out team effort. Just like in Remember the Titans, Coach Boone, what did Denzel Washington say? Like Novocaine, give it time. It always works, baby.
That's it.
That was a tough play to stop.
From stadium to stadium, 95 miles apart. Tracy on a delay and has a big hole. Yeah, Tyrone Tracy picks up 9.
Coach Dable talked to us about that and how he will communicate to Daniel Jones.
Woods is picked up for a moment, but Jones is
Oh
going to
my
go down
gosh.
again. I mean, this is a N'Kobe Dean. It's just tough to.
That's tough to swallow.
Yeah, in your division against your guys.
God.
And there goes Barkley. He's already had 2 big runs. Let's tack on another one. And he's dragging Giants with him all the way near midfield. And if Gainwell will come in to give Barkley a break, and Gainwell's got a big hole. Ankle tackle, or he might be off and running for the end zone. Blitz. Hurts gets away. And Jalen Hurts is going to run for the first down and a little bit more out of bounds. How did he escape from that? Gainwell slips through. He's got a first and goal to the 5.
It'd be massive.
Hurts forward and nothing yet. Yes, signal for a touchdown. Jalen Hurts, second rushing touchdown of the day.
Around 9 o'clock, guys. I'm going to end it now. So.
This is all determined.